Hello everyone, welcome back. JavaMentor.net here. Let's talk about test coverage in this video. Okay, first of all, if you take a look at this unit test, you can see that you covered this method with the test. But the problem is you actually covered only this part. I mean, this part. Else is not covered because in our test mock data, our person already has a car. I mean, when you look at this test like this, we only have if else here, but if logic is more complex, then it's very hard to visually see that some part of the code is not covered by test. So let's introduce one little plugin that will help us to see this better. Okay, this plugin is called Jacoco, and I want to introduce that Jacoco using Gradle because we are using Gradle as a build tool. So I just typed Gradle Jacoco plugin example blah blah blah, and I visited this official documentation. So inside plugins you want to add plugin Jacoco. Take a note that this syntax is not that important. The important thing is to realize what you're doing. Like many developers, they don't know exactly the syntax of Gradle or something. That's not that important, but you need to know what you're doing because maybe in your project you're using Maven, so syntax will be fairly different from this, but the point will be the same. After that you have some configuration. So I won't explain in details this configuration. You are using some version of Jacoco, and also, to be honest, I'm not sure this is some directory where those reports need to be generated. This is that your Gradle task needs to depend on test task. So your report will be executed after tests because you want to see which tests are executed, and only then you can realize how much code is covered by those tests. So I just copied this configuration, this one as well, and I didn't copy this. I will tell you later what is this doing, but basically this is the part that I copied. And also I introduce ID Jacoco here and this part. And what we can do now, we can go in the terminal and we can say Gradle build. So we want our Gradle to build our project, which means include all dependencies, create jar file for us, and so on and so on. You will see that in this process build, Gradle will execute tests. So all tests that we wrote are executed, and we are unable to get the jar, we are unable to build the project if tests are not passing. You will see build fail if any of the tests fails. Okay, our build is successful, and what we can do now, since we introduced that Jacoco plugin, we can go here in build Jacoco HTML and then open this index.html in our browser. So if we open this in browser, you will see packages, and if you go into the, let's say, this package, and if you go to this class, you can see that this is covered with our tests. This is covered, but this branch is not covered. So green areas are covered, green areas of the code, red areas are not covered. And that's indeed the truth, because in our test, our mock person already has a car, which means that in our test we are covering this branch, right? Not this part. And this indicates to us that we need to write a new unit test that covers this branch, right? And you can go into every class like this. So we are not doing anything with price or number of pages or few other getters and setters in book. So that's why those things are red here. We didn't even wrote unit tests for this Cartax repository. So wall repository is red. And now, of course, this Jacoco will give you some numbers. It will tell you 59% of the lines are covered in this package, 60% in this package. And in the wall project, we covered 63% of the code. So your test coverage is 63%. Now, this number is not that important. And you will be surprised that in some companies, managers think that this number is important. So they're creating some thresholds. They're saying if your coverage is under 80%, then your build shouldn't pass. And then you need to implement that rule inside your code. And that rule is introduced using this. So you're saying violation rules, I want a minimum 50%, right? But that's stupid. If you apply those rules, then developers will start writing tests that are not trying to find bugs, but are only trying to satisfy those rules. And that's losing of time. Developers are writing shitty tests, those tests are doing nothing, and managers only think that they covered their code properly, but they didn't. Then, if that number is not important, then why do we introduce this Jacoco? Well, we want to visually see which part is not covered. This Jacoco is just telling us, hey, you forgot to add unit test for this. And basically that would be it for Jacoco and for test coverage. A very short video, but I think this concept is interesting and important for you to know. For the end of this video, let's just mention few good practices when you're doing testing. First of all, every test consists of 3 phases: given, when, and then. Given phase is when you're doing mocking, when you're doing something before you invoke code that you're testing. So we are testing this method, so this is the line which is invoking our code of interest. So everything before this line, this is a given part. So we are setting some data before test, mocking, and that's given prior to test. Then this is the when part. So given this, when we do this, then we want to check result. Then we want to do this. So every test has 3 parts: given, when, then. Given this, when we do this, then we want to check this. And it's a very good practice to actually include those comments in the test. So whoever is looking at the test, he clearly see 3 parts, and even those parts are marked with comments. Another good practice is that you should name tests properly. Test docs is a very poor name. Name should describe what test is doing, and in many naming conventions, actually name includes given this, when this, then this. So basically it includes what are the given, when, and then parts. But anyway, even if you give some arbitrary name, if you can conclude from the name what test is testing, it's okay. And the third name is the name of the class itself. So IT test is usually a suffix for integration test. End-to-end, this indicates that this is end-to-end test. Usually for the unit test, there is only test suffix, but even unit test suffix is okay. And also I just added all tests inside the same package. The packaging is very similar like in our main branch. So If you have some tests that are related to the classes that are inside book package, then similarly you want to create package book here, and then all of those tests you want to include in that book package, and so on and so on. So just don't add all tests inside the same package, that's the point. And that would be it for this video. See you in the next video.